New York City, a place that so many dream about, where aspirations soar as high as the skyline. But what springs to mind when you hear the words New York City? Perhaps it's the unforgettable lyrics from Jay-Z's anthem? The vision of iconic yellow taxis weaving through your favorite movie scenes? Or maybe the endless neon lights of Times Square, a place that never truly goes dark. Each of these images has become synonymous with the energy of this fashion city, where ambition and creativity collide. Yet, New York City isn't just about iconic imagery and the allure of high fashion. It's also the financial nerve center of the world, home to JP Morgan, the largest investment bank on the planet. JP Morgan's towering skyscrapers loom over the city, symbols of staggering wealth. But in a striking contradiction, the shadows of these same buildings often fall over those less fortunate, the homeless seeking shelter along the sidewalks below. On one side of the street, trillions of dollars pulse through the financial district each second. On the other, individuals struggle just to find a safe place to sleep for the night. Wealth soars above, while poverty rests just below, lying on the cold concrete of New York streets. And this is the dark side of New York City. The Coalition for the Homeless, a leading advocacy group in New York, estimates that approximately 350,000 people in the city are homeless. This staggering number translates to at least 1 in every 80 people in America's largest city lacking a stable place to live. In a recent August 2024 report, the coalition noted that around 71% of those in shelters are members of homeless families, which includes 45,975 children. During the same period, 37,808 single adults also slept in shelters, and 65,731 individuals were new arrivals to the shelter system. Among these hundreds of thousands, roughly 132,000 people currently rely on government-run shelters. Over 200,000 others find temporary refuge by staying with friends or relatives. The remainder face the city's streets without shelter, living in subway stations, makeshift camps, shelters, or even within the public transit system. According to an April report from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, over 120,000 people live within New York City's extensive shelter network, a group that includes over 65,000 recent migrants. The New York Times reports that migrants are now housed across more than 150 sites, including hotels, standard shelters, emergency assistance centers, and rest centers. In the past 2 years, the city's shelter system has become a beacon for immigrants who have arrived in waves across the southern U.S. border, seeking new lives but facing formidable housing challenges upon arrival. A significant driver of this crisis is the soaring cost of housing. Vacancy rates for affordable apartments, priced below $1,100 monthly, are virtually non-existent, hovering at just 0.39%. This shortage makes it nearly impossible for low-income families and individuals to secure a permanent home. Additionally, the high numbers of single homeless individuals often stem from struggles with mental health issues, substance abuse, and chronic health conditions. A survey conducted among homeless families points to other primary causes behind the crisis: evictions, overcrowded housing conditions, domestic violence, and job loss. Between 1996 and 2017, New York City lost 1.1 million affordable housing units, a critical factor that has continued to push the city's most vulnerable residents out of stable living situations and into homelessness. Even if some individuals manage to find housing, the shadow of racism can loom large over their daily lives. Data shows that Black and Hispanic or Latino residents in New York face homelessness at disproportionate rates. To illustrate, about 56% of heads of homeless families in shelters are Black, 32% are Hispanic or Latino, 7% are white, and less than 1% are Asian American or Native American. Racial discrimination in housing is a persistent issue. When applying for apartments or attempting to use housing vouchers, Black and Hispanic or Latino residents frequently encounter unfair treatment. Moreover, long-standing racial segregation in many neighborhoods has resulted in disparities in housing, education, and economic opportunities, creating an enduring gap in quality of life and financial security. Racism isn't limited to housing alone. It's also deeply woven into the relationship between law enforcement and communities of color in New York. Tensions around issues like racial profiling and the controversial stop-and-frisk tactics remain high, particularly due to their disproportionate impact on Black and Latino residents. In 2023, nearly 16,971 stop-and-frisk incidents were recorded, a decade-high figure. Of those stops, a staggering 89% involved Black and Latino individuals, despite these groups making up a far smaller portion of the city's population. Take New York's Black community, for instance. Though they account for only 20% of the city's population, they represented 60% of all stops last year. Meanwhile, only 6% of stops involved white individuals, a significant drop from the 9 to 10% recorded in prior years. Alarmingly, nearly 70% of those who were stopped turned out to be innocent, highlighting the deep flaws and racial biases within these policing practices. New York City is famous for the pleasures and thrills it offers, especially when night falls. This allure also extends to its underground nightlife. Recently, there's been a noticeable rise in prostitution activities in Brooklyn, particularly along 3rd Avenue. It's not just limited to Brooklyn, though. In neighborhoods like Corona, Queens, brothels openly operate during daylight hours, often involving women who are likely victims of human trafficking. Many of these women are exploited by criminal networks, including cartels from Mexico and Central America, who funnel vulnerable individuals into the city's sex trade. Tina Bien-Amé, executive director of the Coalition Against Trafficking in Women, confirms that trafficking cartels from Mexico and Central America are actively sending women to areas like Queens and parts of Brooklyn. Jane Manning, an advocate for women's rights, echoes this, emphasizing that migrants especially face high risks of being coerced into the sex industry. According to the New York Post, certain markets for sex operate visibly and brazenly on Friday and Saturday nights. These are not just isolated incidents. Multiple brothels offer a range of services openly, creating a disturbing atmosphere of normalization. Some offer happy ending massages for $40, while others charge $80 for full body massages. Beyond brothels, sex workers appear with confidence in front of local businesses like dental clinics, barbershops, and billiard rooms, bringing the trade into the open. Rather than competing, these establishments cooperate to protect each other. Unfortunately, New York authorities have reduced arrests of sex workers, instead shifting their focus to prosecuting Johns, or clients. Legal reforms in 2021, including a decision by the Manhattan District Attorney to stop prosecuting sex workers, aim to support those being exploited. Yet this approach has had unintended consequences. It has allowed traffickers and pimps to operate more openly, with minimal risk of being apprehended. New York City's police force has faced a growing challenge in recent years. Gang violence now carried out on scooters. Gangs are increasingly using scooters and mopeds, taking advantage of the vehicle's agility to quickly escape after committing crimes like robberies and assaults. These compact vehicles allow criminals to navigate tight spaces and evade police with ease, often disappearing into the city's dense traffic within moments. Between 2022 and 2024, incidents involving illegal scooters have spiked dramatically, with robberies involving scooters rising almost tenfold. In early 2022, the city reported 44 complaints linked to scooter-related crimes, a number that surged to over 415 by 2024. So far, in 2024, police patrolling high-crime neighborhoods have seized nearly 10,000 illegal scooters and made 1,300 related arrests. The New York Police Department has responded by setting up checkpoints throughout the city to curb the activities of scooter-riding gangs. These groups, often traveling in large packs, have become a major threat to public safety, particularly in areas like the Rockaways and other neighborhoods that have seen frequent incidents of scooter-related crime. Beyond the wave of gang-related violence, New York City contends with a constant and often overlooked issue: noise pollution. Known for its never-sleep atmosphere, the city generates a continuous hum of activity. Honking car horns, blaring ambulance sirens, roaring construction, and rumbling subway trains all contribute to high noise levels that surround residents day and night. Reports indicate that in some areas, noise levels can reach upwards of 85 decibels, a level that poses a risk of hearing damage if exposure is prolonged. Dense districts like Manhattan are especially affected, with a near-constant din that barely fades, even late into the night. Though New York offers an abundance of opportunity and excitement, the stress caused by noise pollution has a tangible impact on residents' health. Beyond heightened stress, studies have shown that chronic noise exposure can lead to sleep disturbances, cardiovascular issues, and elevated blood pressure, underscoring the toll of living amid the city's unrelenting soundscape.